Some of these stories, while being investigated, bear personal risk to those reporting them. Yet for the great job of society, an intrepid journalist bears the risk to execute these stories. At the time when there is brazen disregard for the facts driven by the digital echo chambers and cheap clicks on cyberspace to drive online profits, there is persuasion to pander towards this brand of yellow journalism rather than investigative journalism, which takes time and requires resources. This is what the editor-in-chief of the UK-based Guardian newspaper, Catherine Viner, says in a series of confusing battles between opposing forces, between the truth and falsehood, fact and rumor, kindness and cruelty, between the few and the many, the connected and the alienated, between the open platform of the web as its architects envisioned it, and the gated enclosures of Facebook and other social networks, between an informed public and a misguided mob. Investigative journalism calls for the powerful to account, indicts the corrupt, and gives a lease of life to the underclass abused by the political elite. Many stories like Terror on the Lake, done by NTV's investigative editor Emma Mutaizibwa and camera person Abubakar Zirabamzali, lifted the lid off extrajudicial killings by the UPDF against the fishing community. The story titled Terror on the Lake elicited an uproar from lawmakers who represent the fishing community, and the president asked the men in boots to use lawful means in enforcing fishing restrictions on Lake Victoria.
These were the words of Major James Nwagaba at the commencement of this operation. The UPDF Act gives us leverage to charge you as an economic terrorist. If you're caught, it will be as good as catching Joseph Kony.
Also the story of Mabira, the disappearing forest, vividly exposed illicit logging, which threatens the survival of the second largest rainforest. A cradle for species, Mabira embraces gently in its arms many endangered species.
We are told that before the degradation, just like you can see on this other side, one tree that used to gaze at this very small river was cut, maybe about a year ago. This small river used to be as deep as almost above my waist, but it's slowly disappearing. You can see it's just a few inches from my feet, almost my calf. I think I'm firm.
I and my camera person William Chintu camped in the forest for almost a week.
Shouldn't see these rocks. Unfortunately, some of these shrubs are itchy. This is my camera person. You must make sure that he can't be easily seen. Yeah, that will work.
Until we secretly filmed the illegal loggers. Sometimes we were overcome by fear as darkness enveloped the forest. Yet if we had to tell this story, we had to overcome trepidation. A bipartisan parliament agreed that action must be taken to save the forest.
Mabira again was another shocker.
The honorable member from Mayuge, in the name of Honorable Majegere, picked up from the story of Mabira and actually raised a serious question in the floor of Parliament, to which the Minister for Environment responded.
The information you gave to the all Uganda and wide has helped people to be informed. In fact, it was like a candle light telling other people to keep their environment, not only in Mabira, but also other parts of the country.
According to Dr. Peter Mwesige, the Executive Director of African Center for Media Excellence, the feature has set a precedent for in-depth analysis and reporting.
As far as Panorama is concerned, I think that, just maintain explanation, analysis, context as it were, show people the significance of what it is you are covering, why should they care about this, show them about causes of the events around them or developments, the consequences of those, developments, who benefits, who loses, what are those hidden, factors maybe at play. and so on. Very often, I mean, people, very often there are so many underlying causes of stories or developments around us that are unexplored by journalists. We simply report what has happened without going back to ask ourselves, why is this happening? So I think that as long as you continue asking the right questions, mark my words, the right questions. Why is this happening? Why now? How does it happen? Who gains? Who loses? So what? Who cares? I mean, that's it. You can't go wrong.
In February, NTV also unraveled the story of the nodding syndrome affected communities, where over 6 children had died this year and abandoned. They were left to die a slow and agonizing death.
Achero Vicky got nodding syndrome when she was 12 years, and that means that the mom managed to enjoy seeing her healthy daughter for only a dozen of years, and after that everything changed. She now can't understand much, and that completely pains her because she had a lot of hopes in her. And the other problem is that ever since she was born, her and the husband, they have never managed to get another baby.
The people in this part of the country had a glimmer of hope after the LRA insurgency. At the time of airing the story, 6 children had died of nodding syndrome in less than 3 months in northern Uganda. On the day the story aired, there were 44 million online impressions and 1.5 million online who watched the story, according to real-time statistics.
I feel a lot of pain. This year, I won't do anything because I have to take care of my sick children.
The Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya, who hails from Acholi sub-region, ravaged by nodding syndrome disease, spoke with brutal candor about the plight of his people.
What is the Ministry of Finance bringing to Parliament now? Supplementary appropriation proposals for what? Electromax, Jacobson, generating power by fuel. I actually thought we had finished with this business. I thought we were generating enough power ourselves to meet all our electricity demands in this country. We are still seeking a supplementary to pay Jacobson, to pay Electromax, but no supplementary to help the people of northern Uganda.
Government was jolted, and the Finance Ministry later allocated 1.5 billion shillings to combat the syndrome.
Right Honourable Speaker, to date, government has sent to these districts a total of 1.8 billion, and of course this money excludes the medication that the Ministry of Health through National Medical Stores has been sending to these districts. And the money is purely to facilitate the teams to be able to move down to the ground, to follow up these cases, provision of food in Kitgum Hospital, and of course, search for those lost cases for follow-up.
Esente always tetuyinza kutafuna 1.2 billion for emergency. Esente always ziri.
This is what other journalists had to say about NTV Panorama.
It's issue-based, and it's the kind of approach that we have been lacking as a media industry. You explore issues, you put in a lot of effort to see that you go beyond reporting, you go beyond covering something, but you inform the audience. You help the audience to understand where there's a problem, what causes the problem. And you can see that there's an effort put in mapping, for instance, the issues, mapping the sources, and getting people to understand the genesis of the story.
Another expose was the Refugee Sex Scandal, where a cartel of police officers, refugee officials and pimps within the refugee community engage in the dark arts of manipulation to ensnare girls into prostitution.
He said he needs money, but I told him I didn't have the money he wanted. Then he said, if it's not money, I am going to show you what we can do. He said, if you don't have the money, you should sleep with me so that I help you process your papers until the end.
You wanted one of how old?
The age?
About 2025.
2025,
2025, even 18 is okay.
even 19, eh? You come.
Where should I find you?
You come in office.
Where exactly?
Or the Kapala police station from refugees office.
NTV's Shiland Huchiri, camera person Bakari Ziraba Mzali, and Daily Monitor's Frederick Musisi spent close to a month investigating the sophisticated prostitution web.
Kati onte onangambe batano yenga bana banji ku kyalo nze nalagiranga ka taxi bidding abagula club njane njiju change ntulumba kutule dene kutule
After the story aired on NTV and was published in the Daily Monitor, some police officers from Old Kampala Police Station and officials from the office of the Prime Minister were transferred.
It's exactly 4:25 a.m. and for the last 3 weeks, we've been trying to get into the dark and dirty world of sex trafficking amongst urban refugees in Kampala. We are along Rubaga Kabusu Road. This is a road that leads you to one of the most populated areas of refugees. Approximately 100,000 refugees are said to be living in Chisenyi and Old Kampala. But along this road are nightclubs and dormitories that we have established house refugees or some young minors as young as 15 years old, and it is from there that they're distributed to willing buyers.
However, according to Peter Mwesige, these stories come with risks that need to be managed.
The people you are dealing with can go to great length. We live in very interesting and dangerous times. I mean, if people can kidnap and kill a 17-year-old who comes from a fairly poor family because they want 3 million shillings, 5 million shillings. What about journalists who are shaking down, the powerful, those who rule this country, those who are in charge of, our resources and all that. So there are so many risks in the sense that the people who very often you cover are those who have access to power actually, and they have the resources of repression, the means of repression. They can actually, if they so wished, silence you, so to speak.
Actually, I want to thank you so much, the media fraternity, about the courage that you have, because there are certain informations that government or any other person would want to seal it, but for you, you would go an extra mile, and you would even risk your life. You would risk each and everything, your properties, but you still go that an extra mile, and you pick the clip and you make the public know. So this is a clear sign that your information goes from bottom to top and top to bottom.
This is what the viewers said about Panorama.
The quality of reporting that digs deeper with proper sourcing, and that can help both the public but also policymakers to take informed decisions was missing out. But these pieces that NTV has started on is already creating a lot of impact. You saw with the nodding syndrome, you saw what followed in Parliament. Everybody, including the Speaker, picked this up, and some monies immediately were committed.
The story that you ran in the Panorama, I would say, has caught the attention of we, the legislators. Now, on the nodding disease, I think you did an extremely excellent job. And Panorama should be credited for, one, sensitizing the people, two, drilling the message deep down the hearts of so many Ugandans who probably did not know what was taking place.
Nodding disease had stayed there for too long. Government, much as they were trying, but people didn't know it was something as serious as that. So because of the media, it has made even the Speaker of Parliament, you remember when Honorable Jacob Olanya was the one steering the House. He was so concerned and he spoke bitterly. So had it not been because of your publication, I think all this would have gone silent. I believe what you are doing is good for the citizen.
Whereas some of the stories have carried an impact, quite often, those with authority have shirked their responsibility and are yet to heed to the clarion call to make society a better place. Sudhir, Byaruhanga, NTV.